In this video, we're going to be making the crowd arm for our Cub Cadet 149 tractor loader backhoe transformation. Here's the diagram for the crowd arm. Should be a pretty straightforward procedure today. The only tricky part is it's a big piece of thick steel that I'm going to have to drill big holes in, so I have to be really careful to make sure all of my measurements are correct so the bushings are perfectly straight. Now here, there's a little note from the creator of these plans that said if I want to upgrade from 3/16 inch wall to a 1/4 inch, I can make this whole thing out of one piece of steel. Now that adds a little bit of complication because I have to cut into only one side of the wall and then add this little diagonal piece. So you're going to see me doing that. Let's get started.
So the first thing I'm doing here is cutting out this notch or this piece for the crowd arm. This little opening here will allow the hydraulic cylinder to mount to a hole that I have here and for the crowd arm to tilt at its angles. It is a little challenging kind of cutting out one section of tubing because the corners are rounded and it's a little harder for me to get my angle grinder to cut straight. But by going slowly and going with a little patience, it is possible.
So I've cut one side of the wall off of this tube. This is a piece of 3" by 3" by 1/4 inch thick steel. I cut one end off. Now I'm going to drill the holes for the bushings that will connect to the hydraulic cylinder as well as the pivot for this crowd arm. And then I'm going to come back and weld a piece of 1/8 inch steel at an angle right down here and also drill a hole in it so I can access the grease fitting that I'm going to put in here. So we have our crowd arm all cut out and all the holes drilled. These right here, this is a 1.5 inch hole, this is a 1 inch hole. Coming down to the other end, this is a 1 inch hole, this is a 1.5 inch hole. This hole is for the bushing for the bucket. This hole is for the pivot mount that will connect to the back of the bucket. It's coming down on this end. This one is for the bushing that will connect to the boom arm. And this right here is for the bushings that will ultimately connect to the hydraulic cylinder that controls this crowd arm. I have all the bushings cut out. These bushings will go into their respective places, into their respective holes, and welded in. This one is drilled and tapped for a grease fitting. This one has the grease fitting installed. It's not screwed in all the way. I have to actually take the grease fitting out, weld it in place, and then put it back in. This is just for demonstration purposes. These are the two little bushings that will go on the end here. So let's weld those into place.
Okay, here I am assembling the 3 pieces of the mounts for the hydraulic cylinder that will control the dump bucket on the crowd arm. Here I'm using a piece of 1-inch steel bar that I'm putting through the holes to help keep everything aligned. Now at this point in the build, it's very important to make sure that the 2 holes that are going to connect to the hydraulic cylinder are perfectly in line, both side to side and front to back. So I'm also using these magnetic right angle holders here to help me get everything in its exact position. Now here we are moving ahead. I'm welding the end cap into the crowd arm. Now this is the end that is facing the hydraulic cylinder that controls the crowd arm. This piece is at an angle and has a 1-inch hole drilled in the center of it so I can access the grease fitting of that bushing. Now here is that other end cap on the other side of the crowd arm. This is the bucket side of the crowd arm. I am capping this end with a piece of 1/4-inch steel that's 3-inch by 3-inch. Here I am just tacking it in and then cleaning off the slag and then getting ready to do my final welding.
So here is the crowd arm all finished. It's finished with the exception of this mounting bracket right here. For right now, this is tacked into place. When I install the bucket, I'm going to make sure it fits before I do my final welding to this. So here, moving down here, these are the 2 bushings. This bushing will hold this little control arm that connects to the back of the bucket. This right here is a pivot for the bucket. And these 2 holes on top are access holes for the grease fittings. Moving up here. This is the cylinder mount for the hydraulic cylinder that will control the bucket. This is the pivot where the crowd arm connects to the boom arm, as you can see moving down here. And then this set of holes will connect the hydraulic cylinder from here to there. This hydraulic cylinder will control the in and out motion of the crowd arm. So once again, here is the backhoe. For aftermarket high-quality parts for your vintage small engine, please check out iSaveTractors.com. Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this page for more fabrication and small engine videos.